Everybody, I'm back with another movie review of October, and this is the 2006 film The Covenant. Very early 2000s, you know, thanks to like movies like The Matrix and like the early, X-Men films. It's very like, hot people wearing like, hot topic clothes or just like kind of the color black just kind of took over the some parts of the early 2000s. But as I was making this list of films to review for the month of October, several months ago, something came up with reminding me about this film that like, wow, I have not thought about this film in such a long time. And I remember enjoying it for the most part as a kid. But going through the list of actors that was involved in this film blew my mind. Uh, but first and foremost, the movie was directed by Rennie Harlin. Oh, and by the way, please like and subscribe and let me know what you guys and follow me in the links in the description below if you enjoy this content. But it's directed by Rennie Harlin, and it stars Stephen Strait as Caleb Danvers. You might remember him as Warren Peace in Sky High. You got Sebastian Stan, Winter Soldier himself, as Chase Collins. Laura Ramsey as Sarah Winham. You might remember her as in like The Ruins, 2009's Middleman, Kill the Irishman. Got Taylor Kitsch as Pogue Perry. You might remember him from like the television series Friday Night Lights, or him being Gambit in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Jessica Lucas as Kate Tooney as Pogue's girlfriend and as Sarah's roommate. You might remember her as in she was in the TV show Gotham. She was in the Cloverfield, 2013's Evil Dead. Toby Hemingway as Reed Garwin. He was in like Black Swan later and Playback, and then also we got Chase Crawford as Tyler Sims, and you might remember him very much recently as the Deep in the Boys TV show. Wow. The stardom in like the main cast is just insane. You did not expect them to turn into such big deals, but they really made something of themselves. Wow. Especially Chase Crawford, more especially, and Sebastian Stan. This movie did fairly average in the box office back in 2006. It had a budget of $2 million and had at the box office $37 million. And this was around the height of like magical kids in this era, because Harry Potter, which the trailer of this film even referenced, was at its height of its popularity when it first started. I think the Sorcerer's Stone was already out at this time. Or at least it was in the zeitgeist of the time. So, Caleb, Chase, Pogue, Caleb, Pogue, Tyler, and Reed are known around this high school campus as the Sons of Ipswich. And the way the movie kind of, really like highlight certain pages of an old book and everything like that of like old colonial America, especially around like this Boston type area, given, Salem, witch hunts and everything like that. These four boys are descendants of, witches and warlocks of the era. Those who managed to escape the witch trials, they managed to have families and descendants and becomes this kind of like you know, a famous family of the area, which I know people kind of denounce, but you would not completely ignored by the widely known fact, seemingly, that these four boys are descendant of possible witches from colonial America. You'll think they either be the most popular kids or the most like stay the heck away from them kind of kids. Or they should be like the local goth kids or something. I don't know. Kind of like the way The Craft was back in the 90s. I guess this was like the male version of The Craft in a sense, but probably not as popular. Uh, uh, of course, they have like, magical abilities, nothing to the same scale as like something like Harry Potter, which is kind of, but if you're looking at it in terms of comparison, the Covenant is kind of laying with how they utilize powers. Like they do like force pushes. You don't even see them like really cast spells. They just like, you see certain supernatural occurrences, like somebody turn into fog or anything like that. It was like, I don't know. It doesn't need to be like Doctor Strange level of stuff, but I at least see like the same area or same neighborhood as Harry Potter in a way. Maybe not with wands, but just, use some Avada Kedavra kind of stuff. They don't do nothing like that. It's kind of lame, especially if you're doing something like a movie about warlocks. So we see these four approach this bonfire where they meet up with Poe's girlfriend, who introduces them to her new roommate Sarah, who immediately is infatuated by Caleb. They also meet up with this new transfer student named Chase, with a very young Sebastian Stan. Wow. They all go to the same kind of prep school. And of course, Caleb's like the leader of this little group. And he's constantly like the mother hen, where it's kind of wrangle the others together, especially the more reckless one, because it's always the one, Reed, who enjoys, messing around with his powers only once in a while without any kind of concept or without any regard to the consequences, because whenever they turn 13, their powers manifest and they become progressively more powerful up until when they turn 18, when they ascend and where their powers increase and fully matures. But the more they use, the faster their appearance ages. The powers ages them. And on top of the fact that the powers, the more they use them, like frivolously, it becomes addicting. Which is kind of like, I can see what the director was going for, trying to show like magic having a cost, which most stories about witches and warlocks typically has some type of, story beat about that. But it's kind of lame in this, in my opinion, where it's like, oh, it ages you. Or it's like, okay, what's the point of having powers where you can't really utilize them because of this massive drawback? It's kind of lame. What's the whole point of having the powers then? It's just there, just to, just to be there. Now, the way like most Doctor Strange Marvel comics have done so with magic users shows that, magic having a cost where you can still have the magic, but like Doctor Strange can't, like in at least one story of Doctor Strange's run called The Way of the Weird, where Doctor Strange can't really eat anything edible anymore. He has to eat strange, foods that Wong cooks up that is gross to everybody else, but is the only thing that he can actually digest, so he can actually sustain himself because he still needs food. But he can't eat pizza or a burger or spaghetti or anything like normal food. He has to have like slimy, tentacle creatures or something like that with eyeballs as suction cups or something like that. That's the kind of thing that is his drawback, or he kind of pukes, for a couple of hours because he casts a particular magic. That's the kind of cost, I thought is appropriate to set up to where it's like people can just utilize magic willy-nilly, because people complained many years ago how like, oh, why don't they just call Doctor Strange so he can just fix everything? This goes to show they can't just fix everything because there is like a major negative pushback. So you got to be very cautious about what you're going to be doing. This is even lamer. Or it's like, okay, it's like, why even have the powers? Anyway, there was a, near the bonfire, there's like a mysterious death that occurred, which shows up to Caleb as a darkling, and nearly caused a crash. But when they utilize certain spells in unique ways, I like to give them props for it. Like Caleb, crashes his car into a truck, but he uses his powers at the last minute, where it is in the trailer, I think. It completely shows all the components of the car flying around the truck and reassembling with him in the driver's seat, and he's sweating bullets because that costs a lot of magic just to avoid him dying like that. So it was a cool display, but that warning keeps Caleb his antennas up now. So now he's concerned that one of their own is misusing their powers, and he immediately suspects Reed because he was the most reckless one. They confront each other at outside of the local bar after they had some time with the girls and everything like that. But then mysterious things start happening around them, especially the girls and Sarah, where she feels that she's being watched and everything like that. And she starts looking up about the history of the area in Ipswich, and it's like, clearly there's a book about these guys, or at least they're familiar characters, and it's like, why didn't you try to get this taken out? If you want to keep the secret, take it out of the library altogether, or if you're denouncing all that rhetoric, it just seems weird. It's like people should have eyes on them almost at all times. Like something mysterious happens, they should be kind of not ostracized, but the local cops should be hounding them or giving them a hard time, or at least the locals give them a hard time given their clear lineage. like, I don't care if it's going all the way back to colonial America, where it's like people kind of like, you know, hand wave it as like, oh, that's just superstitious hogwash. But still, though, at the very least, the kids around the area will kind of tease them about it, or, you know, you know, keep their distance from them, where they pretty much got no other friends besides these particular four. That's the thing. You could have done something like that, because having like a blatant knowledge of this seems weird. They are popular, or even like, popular enough to be around. Uh anyway, but then Chase starts hanging out with them, but then Caleb starts to notice in, when they're doing swimming class, Chase's eyes starts, because they kind of look like demons, honestly. Because watching Supernatural, I can't help but think about demons if you see those black eyes. But is, black eyes with, kind of like a fiery aura, shaping around the eye. And he notices this, and him and Pogue look up Chase's school records, and he realize, oh, his parents died when he turned 13. His adopted parents, mind you. Then he mysteriously transferred over here fairly recently. So his records don't pan out as initially depicted. So now it seems like they have their own little personal clubhouse going on, where it's like this underground little hideaway where they convene. It's like their headquarters. And it turns out that Chase is from this thought long extinct fifth family that's supposed to have been long dead. And so he's been, messing with Kate and Sarah. Kate's in a hospital now from seemingly thousands of spider bites or something. Chase goes after Pogue, puts him in a hospital, then puts Caleb in a trap, thinking he's going to check up on Sarah. There's a nice little misdirection here. Honestly, completely forgot about this, because it's been so many long years. So he puts Sarah underneath a spell, tosses Caleb around like a rag doll, saying that once he ascends, he wants to bequeath his power to Chase. He want Caleb to bequeath his power to him, because they can do that after they ascend. But in the doing so, the person with the previous powers will lose their life force. We see later that Caleb's dad supposedly had died. At least that's what it is on the record. But it's really he's being taken care of by the groundskeeper near his home, because his father's legally 44, but his appearance shows that he's like, probably decrepit 80s to 90s years old, because he had overused his powers to the point where now it's like he's an invalid. He tells Sarah everything about him, tries to keep her safe. His 18th birthday is coming up. So, and it turns out Chase, I guess, not knowing his familial background, wasn't taught the same way as the other four were taught. So he wasn't practicing safety measures when using his powers. So now, unfortunately, he's addicted. He's well beyond addicted at this point. So he threatens Caleb, like, I'll go after Sarah, your whole family, your friends, until you eventually give up your powers to me. Because he wants more power. But Caleb tells him that doesn't negate the fact that if you keep using the powers, you'll age rapidly and die. Once again, BS way of displaying magic powers here. But Chase ain't trying to listen to that. So, and kudos to Sebastian Stan. He is really leaning into the whole villain role, and he's having like a ball that you can just tell. And shame that, I was going to call him the Deep. The shame that the Deep, doesn't get more to do here. That's the thing. It's like you got a movie about these 4 particular warlocks, but we're primarily following Caleb and all this, like he's like the only ones that has some level of importance above everybody else. And it's like, even with the Fantastic Four, each one has like in terms of the films, each one has their moment in the sun. None of them have their moment in the sun at all. You don't see them outside of maybe Reed when he's fighting with Caleb, you don't really see the others really displaying their powers. As a matter of fact, they all got the same abilities. Sure, they can utilize similar spells, but it'd be kind of fun that each one has their own unique capabilities, unique to their familial lineage. It's kind of bland that way. It's like everybody in Harry Potter only knows Avada Kedavra. It's like, but they don't know that any unique thing specifically for their own use, or their own familial line that they only are privy to. So Chase manages to subtly kidnap Sarah. They go to this barn, which they set up earlier, that's nearby Caleb's home. And they had this big old fight between Chase and himself. Which, once again, sure, Pogue's in the hospital. But you got 2 other guys that you can easily, like, it's so stupid. Like, he doesn't want to get, like, these other guys' helps. They have powers, too. It's kind of weird they don't, allow for the backup. That part is really dumb, honestly. It's really, really dumb. And it's kind of like a waste of these other actors. What are they even here for? But Kayla's mom goes to the father and begs him to, like, help his son, because clearly you're old. You're gonna die eventually. But the least you can do before you go, will your power to your son so he can, because he's fighting for his life, he needs you. And this goes to show the display of, like, a parent without hesitation will give up his powers, give up their powers for their children, or give up their life for their children without hesitation. And so he wills his power to his son, giving him the edge he needs to fight back against Chase, who seemingly dies in a fire. But as the police show up after Chase's spell is nullified, everybody he affected goes back to normal. But his body is mysteriously gone. And the movie ends with Caleb and Sarah driving off into the distance. And that's pretty much like the Covenant. Like I say, it's very average, but it doesn't really stand out. Even with like something like The Craft, which on the surface you can say have the average moments too, because none of those witches do something. We showed them, because I reviewed that movie a couple of Halloweens back, or at least maybe last Halloween, which you can see my review of that up on the channel. But you get to see them doing something unique, utilizing unique spells to fix whatever thing they have with their personal problems. Like the main actress using a spell to change her hair color, and she does like a shake and it goes back to her normal color. That's a very unique use of a spell. Or, you know, like I said, they're utilizing certain spells to fix their particular lives. You could have done something that unique to have this movie really stand out and become. I don't even know if this even is like a cult classic. I mean, you can leave a comment below. Let me know if you find this movie as like a cult classic. But even if it is, it isn't on the same degree as like The Craft, where it has a unique vibe to it. They both have unique vibes to it, but the clothing stands out. The villain stands out. Each character has their own motivations and character development. It's not really any character development with most of the characters involved. You get some information about the family backstory, but only so much. But like I said, this is like a fairly average film. Like, I don't hate it, but I kind of wish it stood out more so it can leave more of an imprint in the panels of movie history. Same way as like The Craft. I can't compare this to The Craft because The Craft, was the blueprint to this. The Covenant is pretty much the male version of The Craft with warlocks instead of witches, but it did like a poor job of standing out and character development. Because honestly, Chase is no way near as iconic as somebody like Nancy Downs. Because Nancy Downs has a specific look and a specific character, and she's so electric and enticing and charming, and she's like and like very villainous. Or you see her spiral into madness, but you don't get that with the villain of The Covenant. It's kind of whack. But yeah, that was my quick thoughts on The Covenant. Not very long film, but you can still check it out, especially if you haven't seen it in a long while. It's at least worth one checkout. And let me know what you guys think. Like I said, not the worst film I've ever seen in my life. And it's just fun to revisit this after so long. But they could have done a better job with character development, because a lot of the characters, not everybody, but there's some bland character moments. But anyway, that was my thoughts on The Covenant. I will see you guys in a few days as I'll cover 2 more movies to wrap up the Halloween movie month. Before we get into November, as I'll start with like some Thanksgiving films with either about food or about family, which is like a centerpiece, if you will, of Thanksgiving. And before we start knocking into the Christmas holiday. Anyway, that's all I had to say for this, but I'll see you guys tomorrow for more video game content. Take care. Have a pleasant evening. Peace.